We welcome you back to the Eagles pregame show brought to you by SeatGeek here on Philly Sports Ben Goldstein, Matt Brown, and it has been a long 10 days. Not just Eagles, but Philadelphia sports, but we're looking for a big bounce back this week. Eagles looking to provide it tonight or this afternoon in the stadium that they won their first Super Bowl, US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis against the 3-2 Vikings. It's a little reunion with some guys and also possibly a reunion with the Eagles coming after this game. Matt, it's been another tough weekend for you, Penn State thing, but how are you hanging in?
Thanks for bringing it up again. This has been a really tough month overall. But I'm excited for today's Eagles game. I really feel like this is I wrote about this the other day. This is a big make or break point for this entire team overall. I wrote about mainly Ken Patullo and the Eagles offense and how they struggled. But overall, I think this is a big turning point for the Eagles team because with 2 games to go until the bye week coming up, they need to start kicking things into high gear. We're officially in the middle of October. There's no more excuses about, it's still September. They'll get going eventually. This is a team that has to get going right now if they really want a chance at winning the Super Bowl again. And they have a tough opponent today in Minnesota. Don't take the 3-2 record lightly and that Carson Wentz is playing on the other side of the field. This is a very good Vikings defense. This is a Vikings offense that has very good weapons all around it, and offensive line as well. And this is an atmosphere, US Bank Stadium, that the Eagles have only played in 2 times ever, one being the Super Bowl. I really don't count this as a hostile environment then. But the other time back in 2019, they heavily struggled in this Vikings in Viking Stadium. And I don't want to say like Vikings are a rival of us, but they don't like us. That 2017 NFC Championship with us doing the skull chant and all that stuff, they don't like us. I see a lot of Vikings fans talking about how they want to destroy this Eagles team today and make Carson Wentz feel good. So it's going to be a tough game for the Eagles today to get better. And they have to start doing something because after these 2 weeks and then the bye week, it's only going to get harder as the season goes on. So a really, really big game for the Eagles.
It is a massive Week 7 game and also some pretty big news coming out before the game, just about an hour before, or half an hour before we went live. Breaking news, Brandon Graham is, quote, strongly considering coming out of retirement and has spoken to the Eagles about returning in the near future. This comes after Zadarius Smith weirdly retired in the middle of this mini bye week, which was very bizarre, but also kind of relays an underlying message possibly that could be going through the Eagles locker room. And the Eagles need help at that position, at that defensive line edge position that BG was so great at for the Eagles over the last decade. And they have some leadership issues as well, where BG could come in and really clean some things up. Matt, we were talking before we went live about how you kind of predicted this happening after Zadarius Smith. But I want to go back to the Zadarius Smith retirement. This means more than just the guy retiring, because when he came to the Eagles, he was not even considering retirement. And then a guy at that age, he comes to a team, it's like, all right, this is going to be my last chance to maybe win in this league. I think I can do it here. And he retires in the middle, like after 5 games. That relays some sort of message.
No, yeah, 100%. To me, it's either something like that. They say that it's not Eagles related. I think maybe a part of it is. I don't know. We'll obviously know more as the season goes along, but it could. I think a lot of this has to feel like he just can't do it anymore. It's shockingly, being an NFL player is hard. I obviously don't know what that's like, but being an NFL player is hard. Getting bashed and bruised every single week throughout an entire 5 months period, 6 month period. We go to the Super Bowl. It's a tough job, and I remember Andrew Luck talking about this. He just said the pain of putting on pads every week just wasn't worth it to my health anymore. And that was his big reason retiring. And maybe that's the case for Zadarius Smith too. Maybe even though he looked good through his first couple games with the Eagles, he just can't do it anymore. And it sucks because we are in a very big hole right now with this pass rush. Ogbo Okonkwo and Nolan Smith both dealing with tricep injuries. Okonkwo is out for the year. Nolan Smith hopefully should be back by week 10. And now you lose Smith to retirement as well. They're dropping like flies right now with an Eagles front line that has not been that great this season. They've been dealing with injuries with Jalen Carter. He's thankfully playing today. They really need him on that front line. Struggles from Mora Jomo and Jordan Davis other than a game or two. it just has not been a great pass rush. They have not been getting at the quarterback like they needed to be. And losing Zadarius Smith is a really big loss for them because now they're doing something like Brandon Graham possibly coming out of retirement, which I don't hate, but I also figured something like this was coming, seeing what happened this week earlier with Zadarius Smith. You knew that old trusty Brandon Graham who feel like he didn't want to retire last year, was going to get a call to possibly come back and get in shape for the second half of the season. So it'll be really interesting to see how this pass rush looks today, if it's really going to start struggling, and if Graham can either help it or just, bring some more depth that they desperately need right now. But yeah, it's a big topic right now for this team. It's crazy enough, not the biggest one, because obviously we've seen the struggles with the Eagles offense, but this team overall has just struggled to play complete games and struggled to be efficient on both sides of the ball for a full game. So I'm really looking forward to today's game because I really think that they know it's a get well game today and that they need to start mixing things right.
Yeah, and what could a BG look like? We remember his tricep injury last year. He was out for what felt like the entire year up until the Super Bowl, where he returned, re-injured that tricep. Now, could come back this year. There's so much risk of injury involved in this. He retired going out on top, risk of injury, not looking like what he once was. I mean, he was one of the Eagles' best pass rushers last year up until he got hurt. If he does return, is that the Eagles' final answer, or do they still need to go out the deadline and try to acquire somebody else? Because I don't think Brandon Graham is totally the correct 100% answer.
No, I don't see him as the full answer. Obviously, Nolan Smith is going to be a huge get back because we expect him back after the Week 9 bye for Week 10 on Monday Night Football against Green Bay. That is when his projected line is for return, and that'll be a huge boost for the Eagles front seven. But you're 100% right. They need some help, whether it's big names or just some depth pieces, some cheap guys that they can get, not only on the defensive line, but in the secondary. They have a lot of moves that they need to make. Offense, we feel like this is what the offense is going to be the rest of this year. It's the 11 starting guys. As long as nobody gets hurt, it's going to be those 11 starting guys from now until whenever their season ends, come January, February, however far they go. There's not much they can really do to improve. Maybe get another depth running back if this A.J. Dillon injury that we apparently see that he's inactive today is bad. I don't think they're going to do anything like that. The wide receivers they have are exactly what they're going to have unless they trade maybe a Dotson being a free agent. Probably not, though. And the offensive line is going to be exactly what the offensive line is. So the moves that they're going to make at this deadline coming up are going to be all defensive moves. And most likely thing that they need is that they're going to go and trade for is secondary. But I do think they really want to address that front seven because they are lacking depth, and that was a big reason why this team was great last year. Having Milton Williams and Josh Sweat technically not even be starters, like those two guys were depth pieces for us, and they both got some of the richest contracts in free agency last year, especially on defense, with the Cardinals and the Patriots. So now you're kind of in that spot where the thing that was a commodity last year is now a necessity for them. They need depth, and that was a reason they were so good. They can just fluctuate guys in and out of there. So it's going to be really tough for them to make deals coming up because either they have to go for the small moves that they think could be good depth for them, or they have to go for the home runs, whether that be Trey Hendrickson, a Bradley Chubb, even someone like that, and just try to. I mean, I don't even think that someone like Chase Young would get dealt to the Eagles like that. I don't think he really fits this kind of core, but they have to find an answer for this pass rush because it's just not working. And you can see it week after week. They're not getting after the quarterback. They're letting them have so much time in the pocket. The run game has been terrible all season long, and it's gassing the defense. It's really making their job harder and harder. And when the offense isn't scoring, we see games like last Thursday in the Meadowlands, like that, just games that just get out of hand quickly, and the Eagles just don't have control at all. And that's not like this Eagles team to do that over these past couple of years. They dominate time of possession. They dominate with the ball in their hands, and they use what's best, keeping their defense off the field and keeping them winded and healthy, and they're just not doing that right now.
Jay Glazer just said on Fox, the pregame show, that the Eagles could sign Brandon Graham as early as tomorrow.
I believe it.
Glazer also mentioned that Graham has ramped up his workouts in recent weeks. So certainly looks like this has been something that has been building, and BG's stayed in shape, and he's been ready for the call. And the Eagles sound like they're giving him the call to return in the near future. Let's get into the game at matter. Let's talk about this game coming up in about 45 minutes in Minneapolis, and the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, good old friend Carson Wentz. Starting for the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy inactive once again. He returned to practice this week as he continues to recover from his high right ankle sprain that he suffered back on September 14th. McCarthy said Wednesday that the ankle was not 100%, noting that multiple second opinions indicated a recovery timetable of up to 6 weeks. So no J.J. McCarthy still for the Vikings, and Carson Wentz has not done awful with Minnesota so far. 2-1 through 3 games, 759 yards, 5 touchdowns, just 2 picks, and a 40.5 QB rating. And last time the Eagles faced Wentz, it didn't go so well. 24-8 victory for the Eagles against Washington back in 2022 was the last time these two teams faced off, or the last time the Eagles faced off against Wentz, and that was a much different team that Wentz was dealing with in Washington than he is here in Minnesota. How is this going to go? Wentz against his former team, an Eagles defense we don't know much about. What are we going to see out of Ginger Jesus tonight?
That's a really good question, man. God, that's the name I haven't heard in a long time. My goodness. As good as Wentz has been, I think we need to back up a little bit on he's playing at a top level right now. He's played the Bengals, Steelers, and Browns over these his 3 starts. No offense to those 3 teams. The Steelers was the game that they lost, and that's probably the only good team in there. I know the Bengals just won the other night, but that was the Bengals with Jake Browning and no Joe Burrow first week and a terrible Bengals defense who they put 45, 40 whatever points up on. And then the Browns are the Browns. Browns are terrible. So I again, it's in London as well. That game was no disrespect to any of them, but Wentz has been serviceable. I still think in the year 2025 he can be a quarterback for a starting team. I'm not saying he's going to win you maybe anything. I don't think he's out here winning awards or even a Super Bowl, but he can still be a quarterback in this league. I think as a backup, he's one of the best backups to have in the NFL because you've seen what he's done. He's taken teams to the playoffs. He's probably should have won an MVP back in 2017. He was well on his way to winning that award before he tore his ACL with a couple weeks ago. I always liked Wentz. I was a very big Wentz defender. I was always in the group that it was the right move giving him the contract extension and letting Foles walk and go to Jacksonville because you committed so much to that guy, trading multiple picks to go up and get him at number 2. And as much as Foles did for the city, I just feel like his time was up. You could see that the back half of his career was hitting, and everything was right that they were doing. But you could definitely tell that the relationships with the team was just not working with him in those later years, the 2018, 19, 2020 season especially. And while they did draft Jalen Hurts and that put a target on his back, that time was running out for him, I still think that he was dealt a bad hand. The trade to the Indianapolis didn't go the way he wanted it to. He thought it was going to go great with his former OC, Frank Wright, as a head coach. Then the move to Washington just even derailed even more because Washington at the time was just terrible. And he's bounced around a little bit, but he's been finding good homes. He's been improving. Like I said, he's still a sustainable quarterback in this league, but he is not going to be someone who wins you a game, and he's not going to be someone who loses you a game. He's just going to be someone who game manages. If you have good enough weapons, he will find them open once in a while and can run a stable offense for you as you wait for your quarterback who you hope is your next franchise guy, J.J. McCarthy. I don't really see it that much, but some people do. So as good as Wentz has been playing, I do think that the magic of this is gonna run out a little in the next few weeks, and they're eventually gonna go back to McCarthy because they have to. They've invested. It's kind of like how the whole Wentz and Foles thing. You've invested so much in this kid that you have to just throw him out there and see what happens. I know that this team is in a win now mode. They have a lot of very good defensive pieces. You have arguably the best wide receiver in football and Justin Jefferson on the field, and you're trying not to waste his prime years right now because crazy enough, he's already been in the league 6 years. Crazy to me to think about that. But yeah, you're trying to win, and it's really tough. I love Kevin O'Connell. I am a huge Kevin O'Connell fan. I think he is a top 3 coach in this league. I think he can turn any quarterback into a winner, and that's a big reason why I think Wentz is doing well right now. He is honestly the QB whisperer, in my opinion. He's turned so many careers around. Sam Darnold, even with you got Josh Dobbs of all people, looking like a winner. That's crazy to me. So I think that Wentz is due for a little bit of regression, and I think today could be a big day for it because the Eagles are coming hungry. The Vikings, I know they thought they could win this game, but this is a bad week to get the Eagles team. They're coming off 2 very bad losses to Denver and New York, and they need a get-well game, and this is a really big game for them to do it.
If I recall anything about Wentz, he'll have a good game and he'll have a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll have a good game and he'll have a bad game. And that has kind of that is still holding true so far. And, this would be his bad game coming up this week. Something interesting is Wentz probably would not even be on the Vikings or their quarterback 2 starting today if the Eagles didn't trade for Sam Howell, because Howell was the backup in Minnesota, and then Eagles traded for him, opening the door for Wentz. And that leads us into our trivia question. You kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. Carson Wentz has played for 6 teams. 6 teams. 6. That is a lot of teams over the last 6 years.
Yeah.
So our trivia question today is name all 6 teams that Wentz has played for. When I looked at it, I forgot he was in a couple of these places.
But 2 are easy because obviously the Eagles and Vikings we talked about. You got to name the other 4.
Yeah, so the other 4 is what you gotta get to. If you're listening to Matt a little bit earlier, you get another 2, and then there's just 2 more remaining. But yeah, make sure go check out this question, and we want to hear your answers later in the show. All right, Eagles getting some reinforcements on defense against this Vikings squad. Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell are both returning. I want to focus mostly on Q because last week against the Giants, watching those corners out there, Keely Ringo and Dory Jackson, made my eyes bleed.
Yeah,
it was tough to watch, and I was at the game last week, surrounded all these Giants fans. There's actually more Eagles fans than Giants fans around me, but still, it was tough to watch. Just trash cans cook dumpster fires is what I felt like I was watching with the secondary and receivers last week. And it's good that Q is back, especially against Justin Jefferson, who's going to be a tough test for him today. What went wrong with this defense last week? I know they were banged up a little bit. Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell, of course. Nolan Smith has been out for a couple weeks, but what happened?
In all honesty, what I think happened, coming off that Denver loss, they let it roll into that week of practices. I think they were just lazy, and they saw a rainy Thursday night game in New York, and the Giants were coming with a lot of energy because they had those young studs, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterwood, playing really good right now. And I honestly think they just threw in the towel. It sucks thinking about that because you're just throwing a game away, but it honestly looked like they were just throwing in the towel, just moving on to the next week, taking the 10 days off, and just hoping that things go better. Now, Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson, their cornerback too is in a really rough spot. Those 2 guys are just not good. Like it's, I can't even sugarcoat it. Keely Ringo is by default, I think, the better of those 2, and he's really not better. Like I don't even know like what else to say about them. Like Adoree Jackson, I think is going to be cut in the next couple weeks. Once I think we mentioned it earlier, I think they're going to get a defensive back, whether it's a free agent one or at the trade deadline, and that adjusting move, whatever they acquire, will send Adoree Jackson out the door, and will replace him instantly. After that, their DB options just aren't good. Perry Nickerson is just okay. Like I'm not expecting him to be corner number 2 at this point. Like I don't know what else you really want out of him. And you don't want to move DeJean out of that nickel spot because he thrives so well in there, and he's been thriving well when he's in that spot. When you're forcing him on the outside, it's not working. So Thank God Quinion is back today because they need to lock up Justin Jefferson if they want a chance to win. They need to get out. They need to make Wentz's day bad as well, and don't not let him get time in the pocket to throw to guys like Jefferson. But they need Quinion to. This is his first big test, in my opinion, for Quinion. Obviously, he's faced very good receivers. He's faced Puka Nacua 3 times, once this year and twice last year. Twice last year, though, and even Jamar Chase as well last year, too. But last year, he had help with Darius Slay taking over some DB1. He is, since becoming DB1 this season, he really hasn't faced anybody crazy. He faced Nacua once, and they did pretty well, but eventually they locked him down, and Puka's great. But this is a stud receiver that he has to follow all day. He should be on Justin Jefferson nearly every single play. And you're going to see if the trend continues where he just locks down number 1 receivers, he should do well again today, keeping him under probably 30 yards to 40 yards, not letting him get many receptions. And it's a true test of whether or not he can really be DB1 in this league. Because if he performs well against Jefferson, then that will just skyrocket him and not let him be afraid of anybody going forward. Nobody, none of these teams. Jamar, I'm trying to think of the top receiver. JSN. I don't even think they play Seattle or Bengals, but none of those receivers should be able to scare him if he can lock down Justin Jefferson today. So really big day for them. A huge get back on that secondary. I think right now we're just in the slow burn of just waiting for an answer from Howie on how the secondary improves, because you can't keep rolling these 2 guys out and expecting different outcomes because it's just not going to happen.
It's Quinion Mitchell and Adoree Jackson at cornerback in first-team warmups. So Adoree gets the hand as the CB2 today. So that'll be really fun to watch. And Jalen Carter returning. How important is it for the Eagles to put some pressure on Carson Wentz? We have seen it in the past, outside of maybe 2017, when you get pressure on Wentz, things don't typically go well for him. So how important is it for the Eagles to do that? And this is a really good offensive line from Minnesota.
100%. They need to make Wentz scramble, and they need to make him get out of the pocket, and basically they just need to make his life a living hell today. The number one thing that Wentz thrives at is a good clean pocket and finding open receivers. If he stays in that pocket and doesn't get hit, he will find open receivers every single time. And that's where the Eagles will struggle today. They need to get after Wentz. They need to get in his face, force him outside the pocket, and force him to do what Carson Wentz does best, throw interceptions. If he keeps the interceptions down and stays clean in that pocket, he's going to have a good day. His legs are really not much of a threat anymore. He's not 26 anymore. I don't even know how old he is, 33, 34. You want to look that up for me. The legs aren't there. He'll have the occasional scramble, but he's not going to kill you with your legs like guys like Jalen Hurts do or Lamar Jackson. If he stays in that pocket and finds his tight ends or finds Jefferson, if you give him 7 or 8 seconds in the pocket, he's going to find Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison every single time.
Carson Wentz is 32.
Okay, yeah.
32.
Them legs aren't the same, especially after that
No.
ACL. You just got to get him in check. This is a big game for the defensive line. This is, a big test for these guys to finally step up when it was Darius Smith. Someone has to take a step. It has to happen. I'm not sure if it's going to. It has to come true, though, because you can't keep just saying, it's just early season struggles. We're in the mid-season now. Someone has to take over that number 1 spot. They have to get after the quarterback. And Jalen Carter today, I'm really expecting him to have a big game now that he's healthy and ready to go.
There are 10 games remaining after this one. We are in week 17. We are getting into the nitty-gritty of the 2025 NFL season. And another thing that has not been working well for the Eagles is the run game. It's official. I'm officially called. I'm making the proclamation. I'm banging my gavel. The run game is a problem. Officially, it is a problem. So far, through 6 games, Saquon Barkley has rushed the ball 95 times for 325 yards at 3.42 yards per carry. His 95 carries leads the NFL, and his rushing yards are 13th. That's not good. Saquon this year is averaging 1.33 yards after contact, which is a career low. Also averaging basically 2 yards before contact, which is a career low. In 2024, he was averaging nearly 4 yards before contact. There is your issue right there. The blocking just hasn't been good enough. Saquon has nowhere to go. That's your issue right there.
100%. This offensive line has played so poorly this year. Other than Jordan Mailata, this offensive line has played so poorly. I'll give Lane a little bit of credit because he has been hurt. He's been dealing with stingers in his neck, and it's caused him to miss games. But if he's not healthy, then you can't keep throwing him out there. You got to let him get healthy. Lane, the interior offensive line has been so bad. Tyler Steen, I want to give a little bit of slack to as well. This is his first 6 games as a starter. He needs to be better, but I can understand him just not being that great because he's still young. It's only his 3rd season in the league. And I can say the same with Cam Jurgens, but Jurgens has been a starter for 2 straight seasons now. This is year 3 for him as a starter. He needs to be better. It's not playing well. The pressure is getting into his face. He's getting forced back into Hurts' face. Landon Dickerson, I feel like, has been playing hurt all year long. He got hurt in the preseason, and he's just playing on. I don't even know what the injury you can designate for him. Now it just feels like his lower body is just hurt, and his sloppy play is showing. And you have a ton of money invested in those 2 guys, and they're just not. They're not giving you what they earn. Their contracts are not looking good right now, and it's causing the rest of this offense to hurt because the offensive line is struggling on not only pass rush, the run as well. Saquon can't run. You see the struggles in Saquon. He can't even rush for over 65 yards, it feels like, in a game. They have no run game, so they're forced to throw. Because the other opposing defenses know they can't run, they're bringing more DBs on the field. They're locking down our wide receivers, and the wide receiver core looks bad. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have had maybe 1 or 2 games where they've actually looked good and they've had open plays. They can't do that because they have 5 defenders in their face because they only need a 4-man. The other team needs a 4-man pass rush because that's all they need to get by these guys on the starting offensive line. So it just trickles down to everything. And again, they say things are getting better. They say they're having better talks. But this offensive line needs to start being held accountable because the Eagles built through the trenches. They're known for building up that offensive line, building up the defensive line, through draft and big free agency signings. And they're known for having depth at these spots and playing well. And it just doesn't look like right now it's working well. And it's affecting the rest of the team. It's affecting, on both sides of the ball, it's affecting the entire team. It just trickles down one by one on why things are going well. You're not creating pressure on defense. The secondary has to cover for longer, and the secondary looks bad. On offense, the run game isn't going well, so they can't run the ball with Barkley or Hurts, and the passing game looks bad. It's a trickle like that. So they've invested big-time money and big-time assets in their front line, and it just isn't working right now. Like we said, it's a get-well game for everybody, but it's a really big get-well for that offensive line.
Vikings have the 6th overall defense in the NFL. However, their rush defense ranks 24th as they give up 132.2 yards per game. So this is a definite opportunity for the Eagles' run game to get back on track tonight. And something else that was just pointed out in the Eagles warm-ups, Nakobe Dean just is taking first-team defensive reps next to Zach Bond. Jahad Campbell is lining up along the edge. So something that, we've been calling for that for the last, week or so, and what could happen with the Nakobe Dean returns. Try Campbell on the edge. It looks like it's happening tonight, and that hopefully it goes well because that would be huge.
Yeah, I remember I was talking about that a couple weeks ago when I don't know if it was was it the Thursday night game, the Giants,
The Broncos.
Broncos, yes, it was the Broncos game. Yeah, I remember I was talking about that when Nakobe Dean was getting ramped up to play, and we were like, "What are we going to do with Jahad? Are we going to run 3 linebackers out there? Probably not." At this point, like I said, they're desperate with Zadarius Smith going out. They need something to run the pass rush, and Jahad feels like the guy that can give you that boost. I don't know if he's going to be great against these tackles. I don't know if he's strong enough yet. He's still young, which is a thing that he's obviously just got to build up strength as he goes through the NFL. So we'll see. I don't think he could be a Micah Parsons type edge rusher. Maybe not yet, at least. I don't know if that's really his skill. I really feel like Pass coverage is his bigger skill. But if this works out and they turn Campbell into Micah Parsons as player, that's huge. That's really big because that's someone who you could line up with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter on a front line and feel really confident, and Nolan Smith on the other side, and feel really confident that that's a successful pass rush of just 4 guys. And then you have the depth and the linebackers behind you in Nakobe Dean and Zach Vaughn. That's a front 7 that's dangerous if Campbell can get going. So I'll be interested to see how that looks if he's really going to be the all-day pass rusher.
You wrote about it earlier this week. We're going to talk about Kevin Patullo. Another not a great week again last week for the Eagles offense. We're in week 7. This team's still not played a complete game. They had a good first half. Second half was terrible. It was terrible. Concerning comments from the Eagles leaders after the game and this past week, Lane Johnson in particular, kind of noting he doesn't know the real direction. Eagles don't have an identity. A.J. Brown was kind of laughing about the meeting that he had with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley prior to last week. So, not great things. The Eagles ranked 30th in the NFL in total of offensive yards. They have 200 per game, 274.5 yards per game. Only the Bengals and Titans are below the Eagles. They're 29th in passing offense, 25th in rushing, and 27th in third down. You can go through everybody, and every single player on this offense is not contributing how they should, blah, 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 whatever. But it all starts with the guy that's calling the plays. If you're going to call the right plays and put your guys in positions to win and play well, they're going to, especially when you have this many stars on this offense. And a lot of that is not coming from Kevin Patullo. You noted that these next 2 weeks are make or break for his job. Let's see it.
No, 100%. It's going to be really interesting how these next 2 weeks go, because you have this week against Minnesota and next week against the Giants. Again, second time they play the Giants in the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks technically, however you want to consider it. And after that Giants game, if the Eagles' offense has not improved, there's going to be talks during that entire bye week and after that game for the Eagles to fire Kevin Patullo, because they don't want a repeat of what happened in 2023. And it's starting to look like it's going to be a repeat of 2023 if things don't change. I mentioned it in there how we went from our coordinators getting head coaching jobs to hiring in-house, and then the in-house guy just failed. And then we hire a coordinator out of house. He does well, goes to another Super Bowl, and then we hire the following season a guy that was in-house. It's a weird cycle. It's weird that it's going this way, but it's just the way it is. These 2 weeks are so important for Kevin Patullo because, yes, you're playing a good Vikings defense this week, but there are holes and there's ways to game plan around this defense and for us to win. I truly think that if this team doesn't get better in the next 2 weeks, offensive-wise, and by better, I mean just more effective and efficient on offense. It doesn't mean they have to score 50 points. I'm not saying that the Eagles don't score 5 touchdowns today, Kevin Patullo is getting fired. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, though, that you can't have the same terrible play calling on these drives and just constantly going 3 and out and just not moving the ball and not changing things when things aren't working. If they come out today and dominate the rush, mix in some pass plays, don't make mistakes, obviously, and look efficient down the field on drives, even if it's ending in field goals, they have to efficiently move the ball. Again, I'm not saying if they go have 3 and outs today that you need to fire Patullo, but they just need to feel smooth and efficient and make it feel like that this is an offense that can effectively play, because we haven't felt that all season. We haven't felt that since last year where we had a little more. So that's what I'm looking for today, and it's a really big 2 weeks, because if the Eagles really wanted to, they could fire Patullo right when they get to that bye, bring in a new face, whether it's maybe a coach like a Brian Callahan who just got fired or another coach gets fired. They're open for a job. They were Callahan, especially. He was an offensive mind in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow doing really well. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe they get somebody who currently is working. I'm not saying that you would do this, but like maybe like a John Gruden or something, try to find you have to find something that can just provide a spark for this team because that's what they need right now. They need a spark. They need something, they need to do a move where they'll just benefit from it so much and it'll provide energy to this team. And it looked like coming out of the tunnel today that Nick Sirianni was telling them that they need to play not loose and just, you know, play with one another and not be so tight. And that's what they need to do. And if they do that the next 2 weeks, I think Patul can keep his job and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But for now, I'm really hoping that they get better in this game today on the offensive side.
Imagine John Gruden back in Philadelphia.
That'd be so
That would be fun. But anonymous Eagles said this past week that it's starting to feel like 2023 all over again, which really does not have you feeling good because we all know how that went. Let's look at the Vikings defense, and one guy I want to specifically point out is Isaiah Rodgers, who is the third best quarterback in the NFL according to PFF. He signed a 2-year, $11 million deal with the Vikings this offseason and feels like a guy that kind of got away from the Eagles because that's not a crazy big – that's a deal the Eagles, I think, could have matched, and he would have been the quarterback 2 here. And you look back at last year when he had to fill in for Darius Slay, Isaiah Rodgers did a very good job. Does he feel like a guy that the Eagles should have retained?
You know, it makes it feel even worse when you see how well he's playing that they should have retained him. And yes, I do think they probably should have retained him. But at the same time, that was their decision to let him walk, was to go cheaper and younger at the DB spot. You know, they had Coop and Quinion who were going to have to get paid soon. Obviously, that money for the next 2 years wouldn't affect that, but those are the two guys that were going to take over for the secondary. And they felt that they had good young pieces in Ringo, and they got someone cheap in Dory Jackson. Obviously, that didn't work, so that makes it look dumb as well. But it's tough. I obviously, yes, if he would have been playing this well, you would have re-signed it. But who knows if he would have been playing this well in the Eagles? You know, maybe him being, he didn't want to be a QB2 or a CB2. He maybe wanted to be the top guy with Bynum in Minnesota. So I don't know. Or not Bynum. Bynum's in Indianapolis now. He was with Minnesota. That's the spot he took over for. Obviously, yes, you would have re-signed him and he would have been thriving probably in the system. But it's just, I don't know if that really would have been the case. Who knows? But obviously, the money-wise would have been a really good deal. And they decided to go cheaper in that department. Rodgers has been outstanding, 19 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, a pick, and a touchdown. They wanted to go younger, and they're going to have to live and die with that decision. It's going to cost them probably some draft picks now to go get somebody in the secondary or money in free agency. So they should solve that problem. But him playing this well obviously has driven that narrative.
One more thing on the offense before we get into the inactives and all that stuff is they put the ball in harm's way last week. A.J. Dillon had the big fumble at the end of the game that kind of sealed the deal. Jalen Hurts had that interception that was taken all the way back for a near touchdown that he threw to Jahad Dotson. That was just an awful pass, totally covered, wrong decision. The Eagles are not one to really turn the ball over, and they did it on like what felt like back-to-back drives. They're going to have to clean that up today, obviously, because the Eagles, their whole thing is play clean football. They didn't play clean football last week.
Not at all. It was just an exclamation point on just a terrible day. Obviously, the Phillies lost right during the halftime of that game, and then they come out and have maybe one of the worst halves in the entire season in the second half. That's the one thing that they did not do the most for majority of this year is turn the ball over, and that was a thing that they decided to do in that game. Like I said, they just waved the white flag in that game, and Scatterboo and Dart, they were playing on fire in that game, and they just took advantage of it in the short open field. Hurts did not look accurate, didn't even look like he wanted to be there half the time. That throw to Dotson, just I don't know what he was thinking on that play. You know, turnovers are something they really had to clean up. And again, I think that starts today. I think that starts with making sure that they can run the ball effectively, own the clock, be the Eagles team like they were last year, and obviously not turn the ball over. That's something Hurts does not do. And I feel like that's on him now with these 10 days off to get better and to figure out his mistakes in that and prevent that from happening today.
Speaking of A.J. Dillon, he is one of the Eagles' inactives today. Sam Howell, Mac McWilliams, Drew Kendall, Grant Calcaterra joined him on the inactive list. Interesting to see him inactive. I'm not sure if there was an injury or not, but in good news, Jalen Carter and Landon Dickerson both returned. We talked about Carter a little bit ago. And for Dickerson, he's such a tough guy, and he is just a warrior. But for me, like, it's getting to the point where it feels like it's just better if you sit Dickerson out to the bye. Like, it's just every time he goes out there, he doesn't look comfortable. He seems to re-injure himself. And like, I commend him for being such a warrior, but it gets to a point where just, dude, chill. Like, we want to have you healthy down the stretch. And God forbid something happens. Like, this offensive line, like, needs to get better. And I feel like it has an opportunity of getting worse out there if Dickerson is there. For me, it's just like, dude, just chill. Like, we understand how good you are, but we need you down the stretch.
And the play is just not good either. That's the big kicker. Like, it'd be one thing if he was still playing at a high level and just continuing to get hurt, but it's just not. It's the play is just not good. There's a very decent chance that he doesn't play next week against the Giants if he gets hurt again today, because they're just going to keep him out and let him get all the rest that he can before they come back and play Monday night against the Packers in Week 10. You know, I love Landon Dickerson. I think he's such an underrated offensive lineman in this league, and I feel like the best thing for him is to just be healthy. Because, like you said, the second half of the season is when things get tough, and is when the Eagles need to be playing the best football if they really want to win. Go back, win the division, go back to the Super Bowl, and they need to be as healthy as possible. That was a big reason why they were winners last year. They stayed relatively healthy almost all year. Lost a couple people here and there, but they stayed relatively healthy. And right now, I don't think Landon Dickerson is, and he's playing hurt. It's just affecting everything else. So it's something that hopefully he can just, if he's going to continue to play like this, hopefully he can get better and play better. First off, that's just something that's the big issue. But it's going to be a struggle with watching him play if they continue to not be able to run the ball effectively.
For the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, Kobe King, Chaz Chambliss, Tyrion, Ingram Dawkins, and big one, outside linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel out for the Vikings. Van Ginkel, great rusher for the Vikings. Eagles won't have to worry about him today, which is good.
No, 100%. Van Ginkel is a stud. And I think, again, J.J. McCarthy, such a tough spot that they're in right now, the Vikings. They really want him to get healthy, but I don't know if he's their answer. I don't see it personally. I've never been a big fan of McCarthy coming out of the draft. I thought it was a big reach for them drafting him in the first place, but they have to roll with him. They have to see what they have with him, and we'll see if he can be healthy going forward. But right now, that's not the Eagles' problem. Your problem is Carson Wentz, and we're going to see how well Wentz can play.
All right, Matt, give us your notable matchups today. Eagles, Vikings, Week 7 of the 2025 NFL season. What do we got?
So, notable matchup 1 has to be 100% Justin Jefferson versus Quinyon Mitchell. It's obvious. This is going to be the biggest thing that we're talking about today. Justin Jefferson is a top 2, in my opinion, number 2 receiver in football. If you have him at 1, so be it. But this is a big day for Quinyon. He is DB1. He needs to prove it by coming out and locking down Jefferson all day. It needs to be done early on because you can't let him get going. If he comes down the first quarter, has a couple catches and some big yardage plays, it's not going to look good. And Quinyon will struggle. He's got to get back to himself as well. He's been dealing with the injury from last week in the Giants game. Hopefully he's looking better with that, but he needs to get after Jettas big time today. Matchup number 2, the Eagles defensive front versus Carson Wentz. Like I said earlier, you need to make Carson Wentz's life a living hell. You need to make sure that he doesn't have time in that pocket. He needs to do what he does best. Not does what he does best. Need him for other teams do what he does best, and that's get outside the pocket, throw interceptions. Don't let him get back in that pocket and find his open tight ends or wide receivers, because he will make you pay. Him scrambling and getting out and making throws on the run, he is not good at that. You've seen him throw the interceptions on those same plays this year. So if they can do that, then Carson Wentz will struggle, and the Eagles will win if they can get after him.
SeatGeek is the best way to buy your tickets, whether it's for a sports game, whether it's for a concert, whether it's for anything in the world, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the easiest, most efficient way to buy your tickets. Each seat is given a green, red, or yellow dot indicating whether that ticket is a good, bad, or a fair deal. Of course, green, good, yellow is okay, and red, stay away from the red. We want to go with the eagle green when we're buying our tickets. Use code Philly Sports Report, save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Again, Philly Sports Report, save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring. Click the link in the description or on any of the social media bios to save. And they are also sponsoring our SeatGeek Standout Stars, along with this entire show. They are sponsoring our SeatGeek Standout Stars, which Matt Brown will provide right now. Who's going off today, Matt?
Saquon Barkley. We've talked about it. Vikings aren't the best run defense team. This is the game where Saquon Barkley has 100-plus rushing yards. That's going to be one of my locks later. But I truly think that he's going to break one today. I have a feeling.
Yes!
I think it's going to be the day where he gets going. They need it. They desperately need, more than anything, in my opinion, Saquon Barkley to go out there and bust a big run, because that's what they need. They need the effectiveness from Saquon to bring the energy, and they need a big play. And I don't think it's going to come through the air because the Vikings secondary is good. That's why they need the rush. They need to just break one, put him outside, run him outside the middle, run him on the sidelines, and let him break loose, kind of like one of the Rams play, whether the playoffs one or the Sunday Night Football one from last year. He just needs a big one. He needs to break it, give that energy to that sideline, and hopefully use that the rest of this game to be good. Other standouts are Jalen Hurts. I want a bounce back game from him. I'm using the quarterback and the running back as my standout stars, but I want a big game from Hurts. Whether that's just effectiveness throwing the ball, effectiveness not turning it over, running on third down against the pass rush. If they're going to bring a blitz, he needs to take off and run. I really want to see him bounce back today and be an effective quarterback, because he needs to start getting going a little bit too. He's kind of been slacking these last couple of weeks. He needs to be efficient and be better, because they really need him to start thriving in the second half of the season.
I think you're going to see today a lot of Jalen using his legs.
Yes.
Great secondary with Minnesota. We talked about Isaiah Rodgers earlier, and I think if the Eagles are going to win this game, a lot of it is going to have to come, of course, from Saquon's legs, but Jalen from his legs today as well. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring the SeatGeek Standout Stars. Use code Philly Sports Report, save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Our locks of the game: Eagles just a slight favorite, -1.5 today. The over-under is 43.5. Matt likes the Saquon Barkley over today, but what else are you liking?
Saquon Barkley over his rushing yards. I'm trying to see what it's up to right now. I'm thinking he's going over 100 today. I really feel like that's where looking at. It's looking like his rushing yards. Sorry, I want to see what this exactly is. It's looking like it's about 75 to 80. Somewhere in there. I would definitely go over on that. I think this is the day where he gets going. I think he's going to get to 100. I also like him to score a touchdown today. Like I said, I think he breaks one today. I think he might get a short one today as well, too. He might have a couple. I truly feel like if the offense is humming today, he's going to have a couple of touchdowns today. I think he definitely gets in the end zone. As for the points, I think the Eagles, going to be a spoiler, I think they do win today. So that 1.5, I do think take the Eagles with that -1.5. I think it's up to 2.5 actually now. I still take that though. I do think some points are going to be scored. I would probably go over the 43.5. I think these teams at least score 3 touchdowns. That's 42 right there. And one of them is bound to kick a field goal in that scenario. Obviously, someone's got to win. Well, technically not. You can't tie. But there will be a decent amount of 20s today for both these teams. I expect Wentz to move the ball somewhat efficiently on a couple drives. Justin Jefferson's still great. So I would probably go over on those points. But I would definitely guarantee Saquon Barkley today. I think it's his day to finally get. If it's not, then we're in for a really bad week, because if he doesn't get going today, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be the biggest talk of the town if the Eagles can't get their guys going. But we'll see. But I truly think today's the Saquon Barkley show day.
Let's go back to our trivia question again. Name all 6 teams Carson Wentz has played for. Put your answers in the chat. Matt, I feel pretty confident that you're going to be able to get this. So since I think you know the teams, give me the years in order as well.
All right, so he was drafted with the Eagles for 2016 until the end of the 2020 season. He played 2021 with the Colts, played 2022 with the Commanders, played 2023 with the Rams, played 2024 with the Chiefs, and then this season he is with the Minnesota Vikings. Bang.
There it is. Yeah, 2016-20. He was with the Philadelphia Eagles as their starter, benched in the middle of the 2020 season, ending his reign with Philadelphia. Starter with the 2021 Indianapolis Colts, started his season really well, and then all things collapsed at the end, did not make the playoffs. Was the starter in 22 with Washington, and then quickly got the hook. 2023, he was the backup in Los Angeles, never really saw the field. 24, backup with Kansas City, never really saw the field. And now 25, backup with Minnesota, and is seeing the field thanks to an injury. And Carson Wentz, he played the last week of last season, and it didn't go so well.
No.
With Kansas City. So there's a trivia question again. Eagles, Colts, Washington, Rams, Chiefs, and Vikings for Carson Wentz. All right, our FOCO Fit Check. Real fans need the best gear. That's why FOCO makes the most legendary gear for the most legendary fans like you. Click on the link in the description to save at FOCO. Matt Brown, what are we doing today?
So I went with classic Carhartt, just a Philly sweatshirt on the back. It says, no one likes us, we don't care. I've had this hoodie for a couple years now. It's one of my favorites. It's just a simple hoodie. It's a hoodie day. It finally feels like fall. I feel like, if my friends always say this, whenever I put on a hoodie, that's when you know it's fall. Like that. It's fall weather now. We're finally in the 60s. A little bit of wind. I like it. It's a hoodie type of day, so I decided to go with the nice. It's just a classic Eagles green Phillies hoodie.
I'm also going with the hoodie. We got just the eagle. We just got the eagle on there today. And, Eagles we need to win some games for me to put on a jersey.
Yep.
Is that the point I'm at? So
I agree.
Eagles we're going with hoodies today. So thank you to FOCO for sponsoring the FOCO Fit Check. All right, keys to the games, Matt. How are the Eagles going to win this ball game today, or how are they going to lose? Like what are the keys? Tell me.
No,
inform us.
I have stressed this so much. Make Wentz's day hard. Don't let him scramble out, or let him scramble out, throw them picks. Don't let him scramble out and create, whatever type of magic he thinks he can create outside the pocket. That's when it gets bad. If he's outside the pocket and he's still making passes, that's when he's having a good day. Force him on sacks. I expect a couple sacks out of this defense. If they don't, Wentz is gonna have a good day. Make Wentz's life a living hell. And other one is establish the run. We have preached it so much with Saquon Barkley. If they establish the run, they will win this game. If Saquon Barkley ends this day with over 100 rushing yards and they don't win, again, we have a serious problem if that's the case. That's what they need. They need to establish the run, keep the ball in their hands, and make Wentz's life a living hell.
All right. It's prediction time. Eagles, Vikings, week 7. Put your predictions in the chat. I think the Eagles bounce back. I think it's a good game from the Eagles today. They finally play a complete game of football, and they make Carson Wentz. They don't welcome him. They don't. The first time we've seen the midnight green in a while, and it's not going to be pleasant. Eagles 28, Vikings 18.
Okay. I have the Eagles scoring 27 points today. Will that be enough? Yes, it will. I had the Eagles winning 27-20. Like I said, I think Barkley has a touchdown or two, a couple field goals from Jake Elliott. I don't know who's going to score that other one, but I think Minnesota, I think Jefferson, even though Justin Jefferson, I think gets locked down today by Quinion, I still think he finds the end zone. I think Jordan Mason finds one too. We haven't really talked about him today, but I think they got to clog up his running today. Don't let him get going at all. Vikings will be in it. Being at home is definitely going to help them, but I think the Eagles cover. I think they definitely win today. I had them win 27-20. Should be a good day though. If the Eagles don't come out flat today and they don't win, man, it's going to be a very somber week once again for Philadelphia.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Hopefully, we get to talk about a win throughout this week. Thank you to all of you for tuning in to the Eagles Pregame Live, brought to you by SeatGeek. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring the show, and FOCO for sponsoring the Fit Check. Check out PhillySportsBooks.com for Matt Brown, who will bring you home tonight. Eagles, Vikings. Make sure to go check that out. And throughout the week for Eagles coverage, Sixers start this week, Flyers as well, everything. We got you all covered on PhillySportsBooks.com. Follow us on social media as well. Ben Goldstein and Matt Brown, thank you all for tuning in to the Eagles pregame show brought to you by SeatGeek. We will see you next week. Go Birds!
Go Birds!